Okay. This is very impromptu live. I'm still doing my stunt shows and shenanigans this evening, but this is an impromptu live because this was content I didn't even know we needed to see and talk about today. I want to shout out the Dre Mac Show for this morning, who enlightened us about old Shia LaBeouf. Shout out to Aisha Kenya, and Fahim for bringing this story up. Now, this story was juxtaposed. I think I've listed it down in my description, the Dre Mac Show. Y'all go see that show from this morning, and you can come back here, or you can sit here and listen to what we're doing and going back over there to watch that show. Either way, let's get into this. So what I have pulled up, what I found out from that show is that Shia LaBeouf has had some issues and problems and issues. Now, I do remember him with the bag on his head at some premiere, and people talking about how the word was quirky, and and everybody brushed it off because he was a child actor. Now, if you grew up in the time that I grew up in the time, a lot of people who were child actors, baby, when they got into adulthood, they did not make it. They did not make it because there was a lot of drug use. What we're finding out, I think you all watched that Nickelodeon documentary. So what we're finding out is that a lot of people, there was a lot of things going on with childhood and childhood actors, and so I think from that he was given a sort of a quiet pass on certain behaviors. However, he has made he was one of the actors that was able to matriculate into adulthood, excuse me, into adult acting, particularly with Transformers and other shows. Because I think he was on Even Steven when he was a childhood actor, if I'm not mistaken. But I didn't watch those shows because I was older. And those shows did not appeal to me at that point. Excuse me, y'all. But watching Dre Mac Show, finding out that this man has done a lot of different things that Hollywood has given him a doggone pass for. And so recently we see that his ex-girlfriend, filed suit against him, a lawsuit alleging abuse and all of these different things. So what I wanted to do, shout out Kat, because she said that there was this lawsuit. Kat No Williams, I wanted to go over and read it. It's 16 pages. I think we can get through this lawsuit as quickly as we need to and see what's going on in the behaviors that she is alleging about Shia LaBeouf. So this lawsuit was filed in the Superior Court of the State of California, County of Los Angeles. And if we look up here, I don't know if you all can see me. I don't think you all can see my cursor, but up at the top, it was electronically filed on 12/11/2020. So this is a lawsuit that's been over 3 years now, and it hasn't come to trial. I think Kat said that it's supposed to come to trial at the end of this year. Interesting, because it has been pretty much, well, I guess for me, kept up under the radar. Because if you went back and you watched the Dre Mac Show, you look at Shia LaBeouf's behavior, because they're around the same ages. You look at his behaviors and what he has been allowed to get away. Because I think a lot of us were juxtaposing Jonathan Major and Ezra Miller, when initially we should have been juxtaposing Shia LaBeouf and Jonathan Major, and seeing how he is able to get away with a lot of stuff. And he did not lose endorsement deals if he had any endorsement deals. He didn't lose movie roles in movie deals. His stuff is still in a continuum. He's still on the mouths of Hollywood and all of these different things. And when you juxtapose it to a Jonathan Major's case, I mean, as soon as the air whiffed, it was never innocent and proven guilty. It was just guilty until the end. All right, so let's see what's going on. So we have the attorneys up here. Come on. All right, here we go. Superior Court of the State of Los Angeles County. We have Tahliah Barnett. Tahliah Barnett is also known as FK Twigs, FJK Twigs, or something like that. She has a stage name, and maybe they'll go through here real quick and let us know. Versus Shia LaBeouf. Now, here's what the complaint is: sexual battery, assault, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and gross negligence. And there is a demand, as we can see, there is a demand for jury trial. All right. Plaintiff Tahliah Barnett, hereinafter sometimes referred to as plaintiff or Tahliah, hereby brings the following cause of actions against defendant Shia LaBeouf, or LaBeouf as defendant or defendant, with knowledge as to herself and otherwise on information and belief claims, and allege as follows. This is the introduction. And before I go into the, let me see who's here. Hey, William, happy Memorial Day to you. Happy Memorial Day. Hi, and thanks for the heads up. I thought I had gotten the times wrong. No, this was very impromptu. I learned this information watching the Dre Mac Show, and I thought, just for the people that watch us, I would love to read this and see what's going on. It's too early for you. Yes, I remember the Corys. What was it? Corey Feldman and Corey somebody else, because one of the Corys, didn't he prune himself from the timeline? Everyone forgot about Shia, just like Hollywood did. That's why we were all bringing up Ezra. At least he did a big franchise movie. Did we forget, or was there a calculated way to kind of just move that stuff to the side? Move it to the side. And because now that I think about it, it feels like we all just chalked that behavior up to, oh, because he was a child actor. But let's get into what they're saying about Mr. LaBeouf. It says here, Shia LaBeouf hurts women. That's a very bold first statement, isn't it? He uses them. He abuses them both physically and mentally. He is dangerous. He is dangerous. For too long, LaBeouf has sought to excuse his reprehensible actions as the eccentricities of a free-thinking artist. That's just taking what I said. Corey Ham, thank you, Barbara. That's taking what I said and twisting it to try to take these actions and things that we know that are negative and twisting them into something positive. As the I'm gonna stumble over that word, eccentricities of a free-thinking artist. Even though his history, this is interesting. Even though his history of violent behavior was well documented, many in the media have treated LaBeouf as a harmless figure of fun, which has helped enable him to perpetuate his cycle of abuse of women over the years. There is nothing funny about the exploitation and the battering of women. This action has been brought not for personal gain, but to set the record straight and to help ensure that no more women must undergo the abuse that Shia LaBeouf has inflicted on his prior romantic partners. The days in which LaBeouf can mistreat and harm women with impunity are over. Yes, here we go. Tahliah Barnett, professionally known as FKA Twigs, is an internationally successful singer-songwriter and actor. Tahliah was involved in a tumultuous relationship with LaBeouf shortly after they finished working on the motion picture Honey Boy. After LaBeouf had employed a charm offensive on Tahliah, a tactic she now knows he uses on other women, LaBeouf convinced herself to move in with him. LaBeouf was engaging in grooming, gradually gaining Tahliah's trust and confidence with the intent of abusing her. What followed was a living nightmare for Tahliah. Over a course of months, LaBeouf engaged in a continuous stream of verbal and mental abuse towards Tahliah, belittling her and berating her after the slightest perceived insults by LaBeouf. LaBeouf also isolated Tahliah from her friends and family, making it so her daily existence and routine revolved around LaBeouf and only LaBeouf. We've heard this before. His verbal abuse escalated into physical abuse, during which LaBeouf became We've heard and seen this before. If you know where we've heard and seen these words, and if I am not mistaken, these are almost verbatim words. I'll continue. And shout out to Kat, because if you know what I'm talking about, apparently Tahliah and the person that I am thinking about are known to have hung out together. But I will continue. Over a course of months, labeouf, okay, we talked about that. Well, I'll read it again. Over a course of months, labeouf engaged in a continuous stream of verbal and mental abuse towards Tahliah, belittling her and berating her after the slightest perceived insult. labeouf isolated Tahliah from her friends and family, making it so her daily existence and routine revolved around labeouf and only labeouf. Is it labeouf or labeouf? His verbal abuse escalated into physical abuse, during which labeouf became increasingly violent towards Tahliah. On one horrific occasion, around Valentine's Day 2019, labeouf forcibly slammed Tahliah against his car and then strangled her after she was trying to escape from one of his manic tirades. In fact, labeouf, thank you, William, labeouf, okay. On a horrific, okay, where was I? Manic tirades. In fact, labeouf even admitted to another woman whom he was cheating on Tahliah with at the time that he had dragged Tahliah out of his car by her collar. labeouf kept Tahliah on a constant state of fear by openly storing firearms throughout his home, including in the bedroom he shared with Tahliah. Finally, and most dreadfully, labeouf knowingly transmitted a serious illness to Tahliah without ever informing her beforehand that he suffered from this dreadful malady. Ew. Tahliah has since learned that labeouf has infected other unsuspecting women with this disease. This sounds like another artist, but I won't continue. Simply put, labeouf's reckless disregard for the health and safety of his partner makes him a danger to women everywhere. Woo-cha. A mess. But I will say this, and I want, ladies, I need for you all to understand this. It's your responsibility to keep yourself safe in that way. Because remember, you are receivers and they are givers. And you will be receiving a whole lot of stuff. So it is your responsibility before you get hot and headed to ask those questions. Now, if you're dealing with someone that gets upset, pissed off because you're asking these questions, you have to really you have to reconsider about being with a person that intimately. Because again, women are receivers. You're going to receive all of that he gives to you. And infections and stuff like that are worse on you. So I need for us as women to be much smarter. So I'm talking to my young ladies out here. Be much more smarter about you and your body, because this is the only one you got. Only one you got. So people will, if you can't have that kind of conversation with the man that you are about to part the Red Sea for, then then you don't need to be parting the Red Sea. No. Let Pharaoh let the Egyptians come across. Don't do that. Do not do that. And I'm being very, very serious. There are a lot of young ladies now that are in situations where you have been intimate with a person that you have not questioned about their sexual history, about whether or not that they have any of these things. And I know this is generational. I come from Generation X, and I know that us growing up, not only did we have, and you all have it too. You all have, but we were inundated with a lot of sexual diseases that we knew that would kill us. And we're talking about, and no one had any cures for anything. So wearing condoms and all those different things became a part of the uh, 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 became a part of your relationship thing. And I see that it is falling out of the wayside with the younger generations, because I do know that I've heard someone in within my young within, they talk about, well, oh, everybody gets one or two. You shouldn't be getting any with anybody, because you should not be getting sexually transmitted diseases. This is not common. It is uncommon. Sexually transmitted diseases, infections, all whatever it is you want to call it, you should not be transmitting any of that to anyone else, period, point blank. So again, ladies, we're going to continue to read this lawsuit, but I just had to interject that there. I wouldn't be me if I did not interject that there. You need to be questioned before you become intimate, before you part the Red Sea. You need to be asking questions. If you're with someone that cannot answer those questions, or they get pissed off because they don't want to do, because you ask those questions, if they tell you they don't want to use a condom and they don't want to do that, baby, don't part the Red Sea. Don't do it. And don't feel bad about not doing it. I would love for us as women to unsocialize ourselves of being always accommodating to people, because of the fact that our nature is supposed to be nurturing and caring and all that other stuff. We're caring more about their feelings of being pissed off because they can't get, you are not parting the Red Sea, versus you trying to be healthy and safe. But let me continue. Although Tahilah has suffered greatly and will bear the scars of labeouf's abuse for the rest of her days, she will not be labeled a victim. Instead, Tahilah has triumphed over labeouf's abuse and stands ready to hold him accountable for his actions. Together with Carolyn Fuh, another survivor of labeouf's abuse, Tahilah sought to avoid this action by requesting labeouf voluntarily seek the mental health and substance abuse treatment he so desperately needs, and that he make a donation to a domestic violence shelter. Tahilah and Carolyn simply wanted labeouf to take affirmative steps toward healing himself, and in turn stop his cycle of domestic violence towards his future partners, and keep them from suffering the same physical and sexual and mental abuse. In response to this peaceful overture, labeouf played games and downplayed the seriousness of the situation. labeouf's attorneys cruelly dismissed the sexually transmitted disease labeouf had infected Tahilah with as not that bad, quote unquote, not that bad. labeouf attempted to dissuade Carolyn from allying with Tahilah by sending Carolyn an unsolicited email in which he falsely disparaged Tahilah. labeouf also threatened Tahilah, claiming that he was in possession of personal text messages and other information that he could use to embarrass her. In his effort to intimidate Tahilah, labeouf engaged Taliyah's former assistant, Noelle O'Reilly, into improperly providing him with private and confidential information about Tahilah. NDAs, people, NDAs. With these threats, labeouf clearly hoped to terrorize Tahilah into submission and keep her from taking any further action. labeouf's scare tactics will not work. He has no power over Tahilah anymore. Tahilah now brings this action to seek some measure of justice, not simply for herself, but for the many other women who have similarly abused by labeouf. Tahilah intends to donate a significant portion of any monies received in this action to charities dedicated to assisting victims of domestic violence. Never again will another woman be forced to undergo the brutal treatment and degradation that Tahilah and others experience at his hands. This case is being brought on behalf of all those women that labeouf has mistreated in the past, and for all those women who will be spared his abuse in the future. Now that's interesting. Now I've read several different things, but I haven't read where someone was being selfless to give the money, given a portion of the money. Now we don't know how much of a portion. She didn't bear out how much of a portion, but she did put out a portion of something. Parties and jurisdiction, plaintiff Tahilah Barnett is, and at all times relevant, was an individual residing in London, England, and United Kingdom. Defendant labeouf is, and at all times relevant, was an individual residing in the county of Los Angeles, state of California. The wrongful acts by LaBeouf alleged hereon occurred in the county of Los Angeles, state of California. Okay. Let's see who is all here. What did you say, Barbara? Oh, and he has two things JM didn't: white skin and a whole lot of more money, about $21 million more. That buys a lot of silence and grace. And that is very truthful. Very truthful. The bull, air quotes. The meaning of LaBeouf, French nickname for a powerfully built man, from Bayo, bull. I'm watching on my TV. Hey, Dre, y'all. This is where I got this story from. This is Dre Mac Show. Y'all go over there. Y'all, I've listed it down in the description. Y'all click on that video. This is where I got this from, and so this is where I'm doing this reading. So y'all go over there and y'all support Dre. Hey, Kat, I'm going to have to be reply crew on a work Zoom, and they're in. What? Not yappy. Okay. Happy Memorial Day to you too, Kat. And Kat was the one that let me know. Follow her channel as well. Kat let me know that there was a lawsuit out here, so we're reading this because Kat has let us know. All right, people, let's continue. Okay, LaBeouf's abuse of Tahliah. Tahliah first met LaBeouf while filming the motion picture Honey Boy in the early summer of 2018, a film which both had lead roles. When shooting on the picture wrapped later that year, the two began a romantic relationship. Tahliah, it's almost to the point where I'm looking at this, y'all, and I'm stopping right here. Y'all, the thing that I have found with actors and actresses and things like that, I think if you're working on this movie, I'm wondering sometimes, are y'all confusing the romance that you've had on film with thinking that that's going to parlay into the real world? Maybe y'all should wait a few months before y'all actually get together or something like that, because this seems to be telling that people that are on movies are getting together. Now, don't get me wrong. I do know that there's workplace romances and all this little different stuff. I do understand that these things go on, but I'm just curious because, again, like I told you, I think this case was a better parallel for the Jonathan Majors case versus the Ezra Miller case, because we're starting to see different things that are paralleling. Meeting somebody at the job, dating them at the job, from work, yada yada yada. Tahliah was in a vulnerable and sensitive state at the time, and she had recently ended a 4-year engagement and was recovering from having painful fibroids removed from her uterus. Within a week or two of dating, LaBeouf dramatically professed his love for Tahliah during the, there it is again, third parallel, the love bombing. During the first few months of their relationship, LaBeouf restrained himself to over-the-top displays of affection, eventually winning Tahliah's trust. Once LaBeouf had gained Tahliah's confidence, her living nightmare began. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Beginning in and around 2018, LaBeouf convinced Tahliah to go live with him at his Los Angeles home. Once Tahliah had moved in, LaBeouf began regularly exhibiting frequent rage and bouts of jealousy toward Tahliah. On a continual basis, he aggressively accused her of dwelling on her former fiance, well-known actor Robert Pattinson, and also accused Tahliah of rushing him into a relationship. LaBeouf would inexplicably escalate the most inconsequential disagreements, for example, over matters of taste in art, to apocalyptic levels, often forcing Tahliah to stay up all night while he verbally berated her for hours on end about her supposed lack of taste. LaBeouf would take something as innocent as Tahliah kissing another man on the cheek in a music video or being polite to a waiter as nothing less than a betrayal, an assault on his manhood, and an existential threat to their relationship. Child, a mess. LaBeouf would literally count the kisses Tahliah would give him in a given day and berate her if she fell short of a target number. He would verbally assault Tahliah if he placed his hand in her lap and she failed to immediately reciprocate and place her hand on top of his. He would end their relationship on the slightest imagined grievance and almost immediately resurface, desperate to resume it. LaBeouf suffered reoccurring periods of delusion where he armed himself with firearms in the belief gang members were going to break down his door at any moment, going so far as to sleep with these guns. Tahliah would be trapped in their shared bed for hours at a time without the ability to even get up to go to the bathroom for fear she would be shot by LaBeouf should he wake up suddenly upon her return to the bed. LaBeouf's relentless mental and verbal harassment and mistreatment of Tahliah eventually turned into physical violence. LaBeouf committed physical attacks against Tahliah on multiple occasions, each resulting in personal injuries to Tahliah, not the least of which was LaBeouf knowing transmissions of a serious disease, which has forever altered the course of her life. Mm, mm, mm. While Tahliah was living with LaBeouf in his Los Angeles home, she remained in constant fear due to the threatening presence of loaded firearms throughout LaBeouf's home. And this would be and so for me living in the South, this would not be as a big fear, but someone who comes from England where guns are banned and they don't have guns, I'm quite sure that this would be unsettling for her. Now, don't mishear me. It would be unsettling to know that you're in the bed sleeping with this gun and you are panicked and fearful, and I go to the restroom, you thinking that I'm some kind of intruder, and you get to shooting at me. I don't know if you all remember that case over in South Africa. What was his name? Oscar Pastorelli, the guy who had he ran in the Paralympics. He was an amputee. He thought his girlfriend was an intruder, and he shot into the bathroom and ultimately pruned her from the timeline. But let's continue. So I imagine that would be a fear. All right. While Tahliah was living with LaBeouf at his Los Angeles home, I'm going to get his name right after I say it a few more times. She remained in constant fear due to threatening presence of a loaded firearm throughout LaBeouf's home. Beginning in November 2018, LaBeouf insisted on keeping his front door unlocked and sleeping with a loaded rifle at their bedside. LaBeouf demanded Tahliah join him when he watched documentaries about murdered women before bed and refused to allow Tahliah to sleep with any clothing on. In these moments, Tahliah would often text friends in the middle of the night to devise a plan to escape LaBeouf's home. Similarly, when LaBeouf was filming the movie The Tax Collector, in which he played a gangster, he took on the role in real life. During one incident, while Tahliah was driving with him, LaBeouf pulled a pistol from a compartment in his car, which he boasted to Tahliah was illegal to possess in California. On another occasion, LaBeouf attempted to scare Tahliah by warning her that he pulled out one of his firearms on set and threatened others with it, bragging to Tahliah that he enjoyed getting their attention. Now, if you have followed my channel, I had talked about, didn't go over it day by day, but you remember the armorer on that movie, Rust, was convicted of being negligent of corralling these guns and making sure that they were safe, because this is the same movie that Alec Baldwin is about to be tried in. LaBeouf made the horrific boast to Tahliah that in order to get into character for his role in The Tax Collector, he would drive around neighborhoods in Los Angeles and shoot stray dogs. Peter, you didn't get hold of this? Because I'm willing to bet you if Peter got hold of this, we would see more issues and problems in a lesser image of Shia if Peter had got a hold that he was shooting stray dogs. Doggone dogs get more. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I am a dog lover. I'm just saying that we do care a lot more than our dogs than we do care for our fellow human beings. Not and that's just real. LaBeouf claimed he killed these dogs because he wanted to know what it felt like to take a life so he can get into the mindset of a killer. Like his role in the movie, LaBeouf knew that Tahilah is a great lover of dogs and that she's very close to her own dog. LaBeouf's admission to such wanton animal cruelty profoundly disturbed and terrified Tahilah. To celebrate the Valentine's Day holiday, 2019, February 2019, LaBeouf drove Tahilah to a hotel spa for a romantic evening. However, instead of a night of romance, Tahilah was subjected to a torrent of physical abuse from LaBeouf. After she had gone to bed, Tahilah awoke to LaBeouf towering over her and violently squeezing her body and arms against her will. LaBeouf then grasped his hands around Taliyah's neck and began strangling her while whispering, "If you don't stop, you're going to lose me." Tahilah was so terrified that she could not move and lay there frozen while LaBeouf continued to harm her. The following morning, outside of their hotel, LaBeouf threw Tahilah to the ground. As they drove back to LaBeouf's house, LaBeouf drove maniacally, removing his seatbelt and threatening to crash the car unless Tahilah professed her eternal love for him. Tahilah was horrified by LaBeouf's action and feared for her life. LaBeouf eventually stopped at a gas station and Tahilah desperately attempted to escape for him. However, after Tahilah tried to remove herself and her belongings from the car, he violently attacked Tahilah. While in the gas station parking lot, he threw Tahilah against the car and attempted to strangle her violently while screaming in her face. LaBeouf then forced Tahilah back into his car. Later, when confronted about this incident by his female friend in September 29, 2019, LaBeouf did not deny it that he used violence against Tahilah. Instead, LaBeouf admitted it a text message. "I do remember removing her, Tahilah, from the car in the desert." LaBeouf stated that he removed Tahilah by her arms. In response, LaBeouf's friend confronted him with a text message stating, "Shia, you did actually admit to me to the incident in which you had Tahilah by the collar and were pushing her against the car while she sobbed, and while 3 male witnesses did nothing at the gas station was true." Shortly after the Valentine's Day incident in February 25th, 2019, Tahilah reached out for help by texting a close friend and writing, "This is difficult to say, but I am sure you know. I have been in an abusive relationship that has isolated me. It's worse than you can imagine." Tahilah also sought help of a professional therapist, writing him on February 24th, "I have just left an emotionally, physically, and sexually abusive relationship. I have one day out and I am very confused and overwhelmed. I am writing this email because I am hoping that by seeking professional help, I can stay out of it and carry on with my life." Tahilah had continued to seek counseling and psychotherapy from this therapist as she continues to suffer ongoing mental trauma and distress from LaBeouf's relentless abuse. Ooh, child. Tahilah began to slowly distance herself from LaBeouf and his violence. She began this process by planning to escape from LaBeouf when the opportunity arose. However, LaBeouf's fixation on controlling and surveilling Tahilah made the prospect of escape both difficult and dangerous. So we'll stop here because I really want to see what's going on. Let's look at these comments because y'all are talking away. Where is this generations? Let's talk about sex and in vogue free your mind. I don't know. Sometimes I think a lot of this has to do with paradigm shifts, and I think with my generation, HIV and AIDS was such a big paradigm shift. And at that time, there was no cure. No one knew how to treat it, know how to do anything like that. And so that kind of, and particularly if you're talking about wanting to start families, wanting to, do all of these types of things, this was one of those diseases that could, perpetually end your life. And so I don't know if this generation has something like that that is a huge paradigm shift, because now with all of the scientific breaks in regards to HIV and all those different things, there's and I don't think that there's any kind of new sexual infection that has had the fear behind it like HIV and AIDS did back in the 80s and the 90s and going into the early 2000s. No, we don't know. Unless they tell us here, I'm not sure what it is. I can speculate. Uh, I can speculate and think it's it, I'm not going to speculate. I don't know, because we know that if you look at this, look at the sexually transmitted diseases, the ones that are crippling and can cause lifelong effects are things like syphilis. Um, HIV is one of them. Herpes is one of them. Uh, Genital warts, what we used to call it back in the day, but you all call it HPV. Those things can have crippling effects, and particularly very crippling effects on women. So you can speculate it's something like that, but I'm not sure. Falling in love. Hey, Fahim, y'all. Again, I was telling y'all to go back to the Dre Mac Show. Fahim was one of the people that brought up this story, him and Aisha. But baby, it's a mess. Thank you, Pistorius. I couldn't think of his last name, but that's the guy who was the amputee who shot his fiance, his girlfriend, his wife, whoever she was at that time, and he tried to claim he thought she was an intruder. Let's see. Uh oh. Child, a mess. This is a mess. We're terrified and safe. So yes, I think we can blame Judge W. Bush for pushing abstinence only for 8 years and demonizing safe sex. That was a time. That was a time because people were. I may do a deep dive on that. I may do a deep dive on that because that was a time, and I'm thinking about how that, and now you see how people are in today's time, how they're affected by certain things. But that was a time, and then y'all, the layer. You think now people with misinformation is dangerous? Top the misinformation with the ignorance, and then people to have this group think mentality going around and causing once you found out some information, the terror campaigns that people did with people when they found out if they had HIV, if they found out if they had AIDS. This was partly why HIPAA laws and all these types of things came into being, because people were disclosing people's medical records. Literally, if you were diagnosed, because you could go to the health department and get diagnosed, but people would get treatment in different places so that the people immediately around them wouldn't say anything, because people had loose lips. People would make mention of somebody coming to the clinic, and if you worked in a clinic that dealt with sexually transmitted diseases, you can extrapolate that they were there to be treated by a sexually transmitted disease. It was y'all, it was a mess. You've had communities that would vandalize people's houses, run them out of the community if they thought that even if they thought that they had HIV, even if they thought that you were with this person. Because I remember the time when people thought that HIV was transmitted in the air, and that if someone with HIV breathed on you, you were going to catch it. I just remember that time. I remember the level of ignorance that people had, and they were refusing to do anything different. And up until you started people, because first it was considered to be a gay man's disease, and everybody was thinking that, oh, you got HIV, that you were gay. Then you started to find out that this was when people were getting blood transfusions. And what was that little young man that Michael Jackson was working with? He got it because of a blood transfusion. Arthur Ashe was the same way. And so slowly people were uh, uh, starting to see the term. And then you started seeing a lot of women getting HIV. You started seeing a lot of Black women get a lot of HIV. And you started to see that, no, it wasn't again anybody, HIV was an equal opportunity type player. You can get it, you can get it, you can get it. But all of that to say is, I remember that level, and I don't know if this generation has a good paradigm shift in regards to sexually transmitted, because we've made everything. We've basically, there is a medication you can take for almost all of them. So I don't think that they're going to unless something comes up, that there is no medication that can cure it. But I do understand and know that there are strains of gonorrhea right now that are resistant to the antibiotics that you can take to cure it. So I don't know if that's going to be something that's going to come, or there's just going to be some new disease. But let's get back into this lawsuit. All right. Point 23. In and around March 2019, Tahilah attempted to escape from labeouf's abuse. One day, she began packing her bags and belongings, intending to leave Los Angeles and labeouf. However, while Tahilah was doing so, labeouf showed up unannounced at the rented home where she was staying. The entire incident was witnessed by Taliyah's housekeeper, who was helping her pack at the time. In her own words, the housekeeper had provided sworn testimony that labeouf yelled at Tahilah and that she had to come with him. Tahilah hesitated and remained where she was in the room. When Tahilah refused to go with labeouf, labeouf appeared to grow angrier and moved towards Tahilah. labeouf then violently grabbed Tahilah and lifted her off the ground. Taliyah's housekeeper further relates that after labeouf lifted Tahilah into the air, he forcibly carried her into a separate room. I then heard the door to this room lock from the inside. I tried the door and confirmed that it was locked. labeouf continued to scream at Tahilah. He yelled so loudly that I can hear him from the outside of the room. I waited outside the room while this occurred. He kept yelling at Tahilah for a considerable amount of time. Eventually, I observed labeouf open the door and exit the room where he had been keeping Tahilah. As he left the room, labeouf first appeared to notice me watching him, stared at me, but did not say anything. Finally, Taliyah's housekeeper has testified that I quickly went to Taliyah's side to see how she was doing. I observed that Tahilah was in a very traumatized state. She appeared to have been crying and her voice was very weak. I asked Tahilah if labeouf had taken her into that room and kept her there against her will. She confirmed that he had indeed done so. Unfortunately, labeouf soon returned, dashing Taliyah's plan to escape from him. Y'all know what my first thought is. Housekeeper. No 911. No 911. Beginning in and around March 2019, Tahilah began to experience unusual and painful physical symptoms. Shortly thereafter, Tahilah confronted labeouf about her symptoms, and he admitted that he suffered from a sexually transmitted disease, which had been diagnosed years earlier. Isn't California one of those states where if you don't disclose your sexual disease status to your partner, you could go to jail? I know Georgia is one. I'm just curious. labeouf admitted that he had never told Tahilah about his condition before, and even though they had been sexually intimate for months. Further, LaBeouf admitted that he had experienced a flare-up of his disease symptoms in December 2019, but worked to hide his outward symptoms from Tahliah by applying makeup. Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh my goodness. That's diabolical. I'm sorry, that is diabolical. Despite experiencing a flare-up of his symptoms, LaBeouf continued to engage in sexual relations with Tahliah, further exposing her to his disease. Shocked and horrified by this revelation, Tahliah consulted with her physician, who performed blood work and confirmed that Tahliah had been affected with LaBeouf's disease. Tragically, Tahliah later learned that she was not the first person that LaBeouf had transmitted his disease to. Tahliah discovered that at least one other woman that LaBeouf had been in a relationship which had contracted this disease from him, and that he engaged in similar attempts to hide his condition from that person while engaging in sexual relations. Despite his endless mistreatment of Tahliah, LaBeouf had succeeded in isolating her from her friends, family, and others that could help extricate her from the toxic relationship. LaBeouf's domineering treatment of Tahliah had allowed him to convince her that he was a victim and that he genuinely loved her and that he wanted to repair their relationship for the next few months. Tahliah engaged in multiple therapy sessions with LaBeouf in an attempt to salvage their relationship. However, LaBeouf's unpredictable and violent behavior did not change. Eventually, after Tahliah refused his endless streams of calls and text messages, LaBeouf unceremoniously ended his relationship with Tahliah via text message. Tahliah later learned that LaBeouf had been cheating with another woman during this time. Finally, free from LaBeouf, Tahliah began the long and difficult process of healing from his abuse. LaBeouf's prior history of abuse. As part of her path toward healing, Tahliah came in contact with Carolyn Pho. Is that Pho or Pho? Carolyn for short. Another survivor of LaBeouf's abuse. Carolyn dated LaBeouf during the years of 2010 to 2011. Theirs was a well-documented and public relationship. Behind that publicity, however, LaBeouf subjected Carolyn to the same kind of abuse, including physical abuse. He inflicted on Tahliah, fueled by his jealous, impulsive, and irrational ways. For example, just as LaBeouf was fixated on Tahliah's former fiancé and would accuse her constantly of still being emotionally drawn to him, LaBeouf would berate Carolyn for something as innocuous as looking at the male waiting staff at the restaurant. LaBeouf would furiously claim that Carolyn was attracted to any male other than himself, that she happened to be looking at, instigating needless traumatic arguments with Carolyn. Carolyn's experience with LaBeouf was disturbingly similar to Tahliah's, demonstrating his pattern and practice of abusing women. For instance, in February 2012, LaBeouf traveled with Carolyn to New York City for Fashion Week. During their flight east, paid for by Carolyn, LaBeouf angrily berated her for wearing expensive sunglasses and repeatedly humiliated her, causing her to burst into tears in front of other passengers on the plane. He disappeared the moment he deplaned at JFK Airport. Carolyn traveled to their hotel alone, could not find LaBeouf, and went to bed. LaBeouf eventually showed up to the hotel room extremely drunk, waking Carolyn by banging loudly on the door. Carolyn let LaBeouf into their room, where after babbling incoherently, he promptly passed out on the couch face up. Fearful that LaBeouf might choke on his own vomit in that position, Carolyn helped him into a shower where she sat him upright and turned on the water. LaBeouf continued to sit in this position, mumbling to himself. Believing LaBeouf was no longer in danger, Carolyn returned to bed. Later that night, Carolyn awoke to LaBeouf on top of her, drunk, naked, wet, and screaming. He held her down by his arm, causing intense pain and leaving multiple bruises, and then headbutted her violently, causing her to bleed on the hotel bed. Likewise, following a party at the Chateau Marmont in early 2011, Carolyn kept LaBeouf from driving home because of how drunk he was. They held a taxi. On the ride home to Sherman Oaks, LaBeouf repeatedly berated and verbally assaulted Carolyn in front of the driver and repeatedly whispered to Carolyn, "You know I'm going to kill you." Once home, he vomited in the hallway. The next morning, LaBeouf asked Carolyn about the vomit in the hallway, claiming he had blacked out and did not remember anything from the prior evening. Carolyn has bravely chosen to ally with Tahliah against LaBeouf in order to protect women from ever having to endure LaBeouf's abuse. All right, let's get into this. I don't think we have much more. Let me move my mic. LaBeouf's documented history of arrest and violence. Over the years, the media has reported on public examples of LaBeouf's violent and volatile behavior. In 2007, for instance, LaBeouf was arrested and jailed following an altercation with his next-door neighbor in Van Nuys, California. In 2008, LaBeouf narrowly avoided seriously injuring others when his drunk driving caused him to hit another vehicle, resulting in his arrest. That's 2 arrests. In 2011, LaBeouf was involved in a bar fight in Sherman Oaks, California, which resulted in his being detained by police. In 2014, that's 3 instances now. In 2014, LaBeouf attended a performance of the musical Cabaret on Broadway. LaBeouf was extremely drunk during the performance and caused such a disturbance that he was arrested during the show's intermission. That's 4. In 2015, LaBeouf's drunk and disorderly behavior resulted in the arrest on the streets of Austin, Texas. So he's been arrested in California. Looks like he's been arrested in New York, and he looks like he's been arrested in Texas. So you have 5 different instances in a matter of 6 years. And these, and I guess these are just links to all of the different articles about what went on in those behaviors. We can go back over those if we have time, because I don't want to spend too much time on this. In 2015, the media widely reported on an incident between LaBeouf and then his girlfriend Mia Goth. While in Germany, LaBeouf's vicious verbal assault on Goth was captured by video by passerbys. Among other things, LaBeouf told Goth, "I don't want to touch you. I don't want to be aggressive." This is the kind of SHIT, this is the kind of shit that makes a person abusive. LaBeouf, apparently inebriated, blames Goth for pushing him. When he eventually leaves the scene, LaBeouf was caught saying, "If I had stayed there, I would have killed." He talking about pruning people from the timeline. As recently as September 24th, 2020, because remember, she filed this in 2020. LaBeouf was charged by the Los Angeles city attorney with misdemeanor battery and theft for allegedly using physical violence to steal a man's hat. Just out here wilding. LaBeouf enlists Tahliah's former assistant to threaten her. From 2017 to 2019, Tahliah employed Noelle O'Reilly as her personal assistant. In connection with her employment with Tahliah, O'Reilly was privy to certain private and confidential information concerning Tahliah's personal life and career that O'Reilly was obligated not to disclose. So I wonder, did she have an NDA? However, it has since become clear to Tahliah that O'Reilly repeatedly abused her position of trust by engaging in fraud and outright theft. Moreover, O'Reilly undertook most of her misdeeds while Tahilah was away from her home, living with LaBeouf. In August throughout in August through October 2018, after her own application was denied and desperate to become a member of the exclusive Soho chain of clubs, O'Reilly committed identity theft and hacking in order to pose as Tahilah so she could recommend herself for a club membership. Once O'Reilly was approved, she then stole from Tahilah by paying for her Soho house membership with the with Talia's money. I mean, it's boy, ain't nothing like a thief. I'm just telling you, the ways a thief can think about stealing from you is never ending. All of this was done without Talia's knowledge and consent. So this must be talking some more things. These are more links. It looks like to Huffington Post about Shia and Mia's public fight. NBC News, actor Shia LaBeouf charged with misdemeanor battery, petty theft. So these are those links that we're talking about, those incidents talked about in section 37, I think. As if posing as Tahilah in order to gain a club membership was not enough, O'Reilly stole articles of designer clothing from Tahilah and sold them for her own profit via the resale website. Is that Vestiaire Collective? O'Reilly then directed that the proceeds from these illicit sales be directed to her personal account with Vestiaire Collective. For instance, on October 4th, 2018, O'Reilly emailed Vestiaire. I hope I'm saying that right. I have large collection of designer items, 100 to 150. I can't list them all. Account is under this email address. This collection of designer items were Taliyah's personal property. This collection of quote unquote designer items were Taliyah's personal property. This led to a viewing appointment between O'Reilly and Vestiaire representatives on November 14, 2018 at Taliyah's house without Taliyah's consent and while she was away. The following day, when Vestiaire informed O'Reilly that 15 of the items would need to be returned, O'Reilly then had them returned to her own residence, not Taliyah's. Unaware of her duplicity, Tahilah confided in O'Reilly's about LaBeouf's violent abuse of her. Indeed, O'Reilly took photographs of these bruises that LaBeouf inflicted on Tahilah in February 2019. So you are sitting here selling this woman's stuff, taking her pictures and stuff like that, making it seem like, oh, well, me and you are cool. You're the best employee in the world, employer in the world. But yet you are running around here robbing this woman blind. Unaware of her duplicity, Tahilah confided in O'Reilly about LaBeouf's violent abuse of her. Indeed, O'Reilly took photographs of these abuses that LaBeouf inflicted on Tahilah in February 2019. O'Reilly even sent a text message to Taliyah's friends, to warn them that Tahilah was in an abusive relationship. However, soon after Tahilah uncovered O'Reilly's deception and theft, she began to aid LaBeouf in his intimidation campaign against Tahilah. After Tahilah and Carolyn approached LaBeouf about informally resolving this dispute, which would have involved LaBeouf undergoing intensive psychotherapy and substance abuse treatment, in addition to donating to a domestic violence shelter, LaBeouf began an intimidation campaign against Tahilah to frighten her from filing this lawsuit. LaBeouf stated that O'Reilly had provided him with sensitive and confidential information obtained during O'Reilly's employment with Tahilah. At this point, Tahilah, did you not sue or have this woman arrested for theft? Because if we're talking about designer clothes, I'm quite sure you're talking about $2,500, $800, whatever a pop. And if she's taken up to almost 100 pieces and the place returned 15, I'm clearly thinking that this stuff is over $10,000 to $15,000. Obtained during O'Reilly's employment with Tahilah, which he would use to embarrass Tahilah if she ever went public about LaBeouf's abuse. He also claimed that O'Reilly had provided a statement in which she would claim that Taliyah's February 2019 bruises did not result from LaBeouf's physical violence, but were self-inflicted from a strenuous dancing session Tahilah had that month. By providing confidential information and false statement to LaBeouf, whom she knew had abused Tahliah, O'Reilly not only violated Tahliah's trust and confidence, but also her own contractual obligations to Tahliah. Tahliah has since spoken with the high-profile recording artist in the music industry who has also employed O'Reilly as assistant. That artist informed Tahliah that O'Reilly also engaged in theft of his property while under his employ. I wonder who that was. The fact that LaBeouf would enlist such a disreputable person to support his intimidation tactics speaks volumes about his character or lack thereof. Undeterred by LaBeouf's shameless threats and determined to keep any more women from being ensnared and abused by such a dangerous man, Tahliah has pressed forward with this action. If LaBeouf will not help himself and address his own demons, Tahliah will do everything in her power to keep him from hurting others. Tahliah has nothing to gain professionally from this action. She intends to donate a significant portion of any money she received from LaBeouf to deserving nonprofits aimed at helping survivors of domestic abuse. More importantly, women everywhere are now on notice that LaBeouf is not the tortured artist he portrays himself as. He is a destructive and dangerous man. All right, so here we're going to get to on 13. So we have like 3 more pages. Let me see what y'all are going on in the comments. Y'all please hit that like button. I see that there are about 19 people watching. I'm not sure on which one because I'm streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and on X. But either way, on X, give me a heart. On Facebook, give me a heart. And on YouTube, give me that thumbs up. And it really helps my engagement. Let me see what's going on. All right. I stopped here. All right. I saw that one. Have none of these women heard of Tina or watched What's Love Got to Do with It? Tina Turner left Ike Turner while he slept in a Dallas hotel, while Ike slept after another night of beating her. She grabbed her toiletries, her case, tied her scarf over her head, and ran out of the hotel. Yeah. Okay, we talked about that. Let's get down. Ryan White, that's that young man. Yes, the young man that Michael Jackson was working with, because they ran him out of his house, his home, and all this other stuff because he received his HIV from a blood transfusion. William says, both of my parents died of AIDS when I was a kid, so I always stay safe out there because I saw firsthand what STDs can do. Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that. But yeah, there were a lot of folk that have experienced that, and there's a lot of us that have experienced family members that died from HIV and AIDS because of also not only because of not being a cure, but also the stigma, how people knew that they had it and they didn't get any kind of help because of the stigma. Excuse me. Yeah, there were a lot of babies back then that were born with HIV. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we're so sorry, William. Okay, so and I can only speak now, mind you, I am speculating. This is alleged. I don't know what kind of sexually transmitted disease this man has, and I'm not going to even try to begin to say that. But what I do know is that if you are someone that suffers from herpes, you will have a breakout. And depending on how you look down there when you have a breakout, those breakouts can leave like scarring. And what I know people to do is actors makeup, which is thick and stuff like that. You can use that to lessen the sight of those scars. um i I just remember this many years ago. Don't ask me how I remember it, but I just remember some of the girls were talking about that you can use that type of makeup to lessen the scars and stuff like that. Just like now you can use bronzer and things like that. If you're someone, I grew up in the South, and a lot of times people would get ate up by mosquitoes, and you would have these mosquito bites that would discolor your skin, particularly if you were a fairer skinned Black person. And I do know that there was makeup that you can use uh, that didn't transfer, but it was expensive at that time. That that you can put, and it was waterproof. That you can put on your legs and you can put on your arms to help lessen the sight of the mosquito bites. I do know that. So he was probably using some makeup in that area to make it look like that he didn't have any, to make his skin seem to blend. I mean, because you see it now that there is makeup that you can use to hide that. And one of the things about herpes is the fact that it is infectious, particularly if you have the open sores, but also it's infectious. Uh, Even as those sores are healing, you still can, skin to skin contact, you keep come in contact with that. Yes, that is true. That is true. We see this kind of stuff now. Uh, and well, I get what you're saying in regards to the time period, but I'm wondering if there were NDAs or any types of things and stuff like that happening. Hey, 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 Blue. All right, so we're going to get on to this. I think we've just got like 3 more pages, and so let's get into this first cause of action. Let's get into this first cause of action for sexual battery by plaintiff against LaBeouf. Plaintiff realleges herein by this reference each and every allegation contained in paragraphs 1 through 41, inclusive of this complaint as is set forth fully herein. LaBeouf's conduct in transmitting a sexually transmitted disease to plaintiff was done without plaintiff's consent and constitutes sexual battery. LaBeouf intended to cause and did cause a harmful contact with plaintiff's person. Plaintiff did not consent to LaBeouf's harmful contact with her person. As a direct and proximate result of aforesaid acts of LaBeouf's, plaintiff has suffered bodily injury, severe emotional and mental distress and anguish. As a direct and proximate result of aforesaid acts of LaBeouf, plaintiff has suffered damages, all in the amounts according to proof and in excess of the minimum jurisdiction of this court. LaBeouf performed the foregoing wrongful acts, conducts, and omissions intentionally, fraudulently, maliciously, and oppressively in willing and conscious disregard of plaintiff's rights and with the intent and design to damage plaintiff. By reason thereof, plaintiff is entitled to recover punitive damages in an amount to be determined at the time of trial. Second cause of action for battery by plaintiff against LaBeouf. Plaintiff realleges herein by this reference each and every allegation contained in paragraphs 1 through 48, inclusive of this complaint as if set forth fully herein. Ooh, all this legal terminology makes you LaBeouf intended to cause and did cause a harmful contact with plaintiff's person. Plaintiff did not consent to LaBeouf's harmful contact with her person. As a direct and proximate result of this aforesaid acts of LaBeouf, plaintiff has suffered bodily injuries, severe emotional and mental distress and anguish. As a direct and proximate result of this aforesaid acts of LaBeouf, plaintiff has suffered damages and all the amounts according to proof in all excess of the minimum jurisdiction of this court. LaBeouf performed the foregoing wrongful acts, conducts, and omission intentionally, fraudulently, maliciously, and oppressively in willful and conscious disregard of plaintiff's rights with the intent and design to damage plaintiff. By reason thereof, plaintiff is entitled to recover punitive damages in the amount to be determined by this court. Third cause of action for assault. Plaintiff realleges herein by this reference each and every allegation contained in paragraphs 1 through 54, inclusive of the complaint as if set forth fully herein. LaBeouf acted in a manner such as he intended to cause harmful touching of plaintiff. LaBeouf touched and assaulted plaintiff in a harmful manner. Plaintiff did not consent to the assaultive conduct committed by LaBeouf. As a direct and proximate result of aforesaid acts, LaBeouf's plaintiff has suffered bodily injuries, suffered severe emotional and mental distress and anguish. As a direct and approximate result of aforesaid acts of LaBeouf, we're not going to read that. It's going to be the same thing. Let's get down to, and yeah, that's just the legalese of it. Let's get to the fourth cause of action. And it goes through the paragraphs 1 through 61 inclusive. It says here in 62, the conduct of LaBeouf as alleged above was at all times extreme and outrageous and carried out by LaBeouf with an intention to cause plaintiff emotional distress and or with reckless disregard to the probability of causing emotional distress in plaintiff. As a result of the conduct as alleged herein, plaintiff has suffered severe emotional distress. Fifth act. Plaintiff realleges incorporate herein by reference of the allegation contained in paragraphs 1 through 41, inclusive with the same force and effective fully set forth hereon. At all times relevant herein, LaBeouf owed plaintiff a duty to act with ordinary care. LaBeouf breached his duties to plaintiff by failing to exercise ordinary care and due diligence in his actions toward the plaintiff. LaBeouf's conduct constituted a want of even scant care and an extreme departure from the ordinary standard of care. As a direct and proximate result, let me read that again. LaBeouf's conduct constituted a want of even scant care and an extreme departure from the ordinary standard of conduct. I'm not understanding that sentence. If y'all understand 70, this sentence right here, and tell me what that, because it doesn't seem like it flows well to me, but it might be legalese, and I'm just not sure. But let me know down in the comments. As a direct and proximate result of LaBeouf's grossly negligent conduct, plaintiff has suffered damages in all amounts according to proof and in excess of the minimum jurisdiction of this court. As alleged herein, LaBeouf is guilty of oppression, fraud, and or malice as defined in the Civil Code section 3294. By reason, therefore, plaintiff is entitled to recover punitive damage in an amount to be determined at the time of trial. Wherefore, plaintiff pays for judgment against LaBeouf as set forth below. For compensatory damages, according to proof, for exemplary and punitive damages as permitted by law, for cost of suit herein, for such other and further relief as the court may deem just and proper, for a trial by jury in all causes of actions as permitted by law. And this is by Friedman and Tattleman LLP. And this was dated December 10th, 2020. So let me see what you all are talking about. Well, that was TMI right there. Well, I'm just telling you, I'd known that people have done that. No, so why did I read this and what was going on? Why would I read this lawsuit? What's going on, Pam? You're just doing way too much. No, I think if you watch the Dre Mac Show, this lawsuit, this stuff, this conduct isn't quite parallel. We have Shia LaBeouf out here completely wilding out, in 3 different states and in other countries with at the least, according to this lawsuit, a couple of different women. And we see that his career didn't do a stutter step. He made the decision that the industry did not bail on him. He decided, he was able to make the decisions about when he was going to perform, what he was going to do, and all these little different things. He was arrested at least no less than 3 times. He was detained in a couple of times. So you're talking about somebody with an arrest record with this, and the industry has not canceled old Shia LaBeouf. And you juxtapose that with the whisper of an arrest with the Jonathan Majors case, and everybody jumped ship. Everybody jumped ship. You go through the trial and you see what happened. Everybody's been putting 20 on 10. And now that people have eyes and can see what exactly happened, everybody is being gaslit to try to believe that, oh, he has done all this stuff and all of these little different things. And you see very clearly that the industry backs who they want to back. And even when you're talking about the industry, I am including Hollywood. I am including the mainstream media, because, I'm going to go back through some of these things. I'm going to type them in there. But I'm just, why wasn't there a big push? Why wasn't there 40 different people interviewed about Shia and his behavior on set, and his behavior in school, and his behavior in relationships? I don't remember those types of articles. I remember him cutting up, but I also remember when I did see the articles about him cutting up, about the bag over his head and him screaming, because I know there was a video of him screaming at a photographer or something like that. Everybody chalked that up to be, oh, he was a child actor and he has survived all of that, and we should give him a level of grace. We should give him a level of things because we know he's been through a lot. But we see that he's been a terror in at least 3 relationships. We see that according to this lawsuit, there are several arrests that corroborate what's going on within this lawsuit. But anyway, I'm not going to rant for too long. What did y'all think about this? I just read this lawsuit because this was just interesting, because I remember during the time of the Jonathan Majors, we had the Ezra Miller case, and people were juxtaposing that. And I really wish that I had insight on this, because this was a better juxtaposition to show that Hollywood and the mainstream men are pick and choose of who they're going to be the villain of the day. And I know a lot of people are not in politics, but even when you look at politics and you look at the history of our country, a lot of times in politics, we need a good brown or black person to be the villain of the year. And if you follow politics and if you follow different things, you know what I'm talking about. Because at first it would be, so let me get to the history where I can remember it. You remember it was Manuel Noriega, but you all have to remember, everybody who became the villain of the week was also an ally or friend earlier. So you have Manuel Noriega, he was an ally and friend until he decided, and he was helping you sell drugs and all this other stuff within the Black and brown communities to make money for a war or a CIA initiative that you all were starting. But until he started skimming off the top, now all of a sudden he's the big villain. He's the big drug dealer. He's the fall guy. He's the guy that's doing the things. Don't mishear me. I'm not telling you that this man wasn't doing things that were improper and they were wrong. What I'm saying is he was in concert with you doing things that were improper and wrong. And until he decided that he wanted to make a little extra money on the top, now he is going to sit and be totally responsible for all the wrongs. And while you sit and slink in different places, yes, I'm talking about you, Ollie North, and all of these people who were in all of this mess. Same thing. And you had Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was a good old ally when you all were raging against the machine, against this country was raging against the machine, against Iran. And then when he started pulling things off the top, now all of a sudden he is the big bad guy. Well, and also too, let's be fair. When Kuwait paid us to fight that war against, was it Iraq? I think it was Iraq. When they paid us to fight that war, we also then became, we were paid to play. So we did go over there and we did do what we needed to do over in Iraq. And you can see so many other different incidents of all of this stuff like this. Just even now, if you're talking about the unsettling of Haiti. Here you have the prime minister or whoever it was that was assassinated, and it was all centered around because Haiti wasn't going to purchase the vaccines and things like that. Now that's the conspiracy theory of it all. But now you see a lot of unrest in Haiti because and we've done it before in different instances. But I'm not getting on a thing, and I'm not here to make people think that I am bad mouthing all of these different things, but these things can be looked up, and these things are truthful in things. But I'm just saying, Hollywood mainstream media picks and chooses who they want to act as angels and who they want to act as a demon. Again, I wanted to read that. Shout out to the Dre Mac Show. Shout out to Fahim. Shout out to Aisha Kenya, y'all, for putting this information out that we can see and read it and go over it. I am now curious to see what's going to go on in this trial. I would definitely want to follow this. I definitely want to see if this young lady has her day in court, and will she prevail, and is there any more information out here that we can look at. All right, people, that's all I got. Is there anything else? Am I missing? Let me put on my glasses real quick. Let me see if there's anything I'm missing. Exactly. All these people who are our big bads, they were our allies before they became the big bad. And like I said, don't mishear me. I'm not telling you that these people have not done some horrific things. What I am saying is that before the country, the politics demonized these people, we were in allyship with them one way or the other. The United States of America was. All right. Y'all, we do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell your coworker, tell the heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And also, y'all join me this evening at 5:30. We're going to do stunt shows and shenanigans. And we're going to have us a good time talking about some of the topics. There's some heavy ones, but there's some topics that we're going to talk about that we're going to have a good little chuckle with. All right, people. And as always, bye-bye.